So that concludes the instructional video. I'd be happy to answer any questions before you collect or indeed on the day that you collect. Hope that covers everything, but as I say, I'm happy to answer any further questions you have, and we look forward to seeing you on the day that you collect your new motorhome. Hello and welcome to the instructional video on the 2021 Autotrail Expedition 66. So we'll walk you around the outside and then we'll move on to the inside. So first things first, we have the cab bonnet release catch is just here. So pull that and that releases the catch. The side blackout blinds for the cab are here. So this little lug here fits into that slot to keep them in position when they're in the non-darkening mode, and then you just slide that across like so. Lift these up and you can see that that's sliding in its groove like so. And then when it comes to here, you just slot that little tab back into the groove which is there, and that's the blackout blinds for the cab side of things. The windscreen blind pulls up from the bottom, so you're just lifting that up and pulling it up to the top like so, and that's the blackout blind for the windscreen. And then exactly the same thing happens on the other side as this one here, and that blackout, so that's your blackout blinds for both side windows and the windscreen. And then they just go back down like so. You do have a tyre pressure sticker here displayed with tyre pressures. Most motorhomes use specialist camper tyres, so you're really better referring to the actual tyres themselves. This is more if it's just a standard van. So for tyre pressures, refer to the actual tyres themselves. You see there it's got camper tyres, so they have reinforced sidewalls which are capable of being pumped up to higher pressures. Okay, so underneath the cab, the little tab is just there to lift the bonnet. Okay, so we've got washer fluid fill, you've got your coolant, brake fluid, oil fill, dipstick. If you ever need to jump start this vehicle, the negative or earth terminal is just there, so you black cable onto that one. And then just underneath this little tab which is down here, sometimes you need the key to get this open. Well, you can see that on the video, but there's a little tab there. If you just put the key into the side of it, it opens it up, so you can lift the cover like that. And then this metal tab here, this one here that I'm just tapping, that's where the positive terminal goes on, so that's your red cable. I'll just drop the bonnet down and we'll carry on around the outside. Okay, so on this side here, this is where this model's got a gas tank fitted, so this is where the gas is filled. Let's take that cover off and then screw in the hose that is at the filling station. A lot of petrol stations have this now, but there is a place literally just down the road from us that supplies gas for refill. So that's where the gas is filled up. There's no need for bottles on this motorhome, as you'll see when we get to the gas locker. The vents for the fridge are just here, so what that does is it draws cool air in at the bottom and expels warm air at the top. They need to be, especially in hot weather, they need to be left free. You can have winter covers on these. What that does is it just prevents the wind and cold weather coming in through those vents, but it really is only, you would only fit those for winter use. It doesn't need to ventilate in the warmer months. Next to that we have I've got the heating on here, so that's what you can see, the exhaust from the heater is just being expelled there. Next to that we have the toilet cassette, both buttons pressed in, and then to release this, there's an indication on the toilet itself to tell you when this is full, but to release this you lift that up and slide this cassette out. Just put that back on. So when the toilet requires emptying, to do so, you slide that nozzle forward, undo the cap on the end, so and take that off so that you can release the toilet waste out of that nozzle, and then you lift it up the other way around, so that's pointing at the bottom, and pour the toilet waste away through this nozzle here. As you're doing so, press this button in here, and it lets air in as the liquid is coming out there, and it stops it glugging and splashing back. To get the chemical into this cassette, which is required, you slide this plate back here and then screw that cap there, and then put the toilet chemical into this opening here, and a little bit of water into the bottom once you've emptied it. Once you've emptied it, you can swill it all out and then apply the chemical, but that's where the chemical is inserted into the cassette. But before putting it back in, just make sure that that's straight and fully closed. You can see there it's closing a blade that corresponds to the toilet inside. So that's how you empty it and fill it full of chemical. And then this has got wheels to allow you to take it over to the disposable point more easily. So the wheels are on the bottom there, and then it's got a handle that extends out of the top here. Okay, so the way that works is the handle extends up like that and then folds back down underneath. Okay, so that's the cassette back in place. Next one along here we have, as you can see, there's two exhausts there. One will be for the heater itself and one will be for the water heater. I've selected gas on this and the heater's running just for display purposes. We've got two drain down points here. One is for the grey water, so that's how you drain down the wastewater. So anything that's going down the tank, into the tank from the sink and the shower, etc. That's how you drain down for the grey water, and then your fresh water is just here. So those two taps, you just turn them, and that will allow you to drain the water out of the vehicle. Very important that you do that. Obviously in the winter months, if water's left in the pipework and the tanks, it'll freeze, it'll expand and damage the pipework and the tanks. We've got the plug-in point here, so that's where the mains cable goes in to give you a mains feed into the motorhome. Around the back here we've got the doors open. This would be where the gas locker would be had it not had a tank fitted. So you've got that extra storage there that can just be used for storage. You've got access into the storage here with this at the back. The bed, the way that the bed works is that these two cushions draw together. I'll show you in a bit more detail in a sec. We are just waiting for some parts on this side. We need a replacement runner, but I can show you the basics of how it works on this side. There's these strengthening bars for the bed, and you can probably just see that lug there. So that goes into this side, and there's 4 of these in total. So there's one that goes there, one that goes here, and then this board here is supported by 2 more bars, and the board sits on like that to give strength in this area. I'll do that now and then you can see how that operates. Okay, so with the bars in place like so, you can see this board here has got these cutouts. That sits on the top like so, and that adds strength to this rear area. When I show you how the bed slides out in a second, it'll become clear why that's required, because the slide out section only comes up to here and bridges this gap here. And to make the bed up, you draw this base cushion into the centre, and then use this side cushion and lie that flat, and then that bridges the gap to make one big bed here. Okay, so with the cushion off the bed base, and you can see here that if you just lift this up and slide this out, you can see how it concertinas out like so, and lie that flat, and then the bars which I showed you will support it. And exactly the same thing happens on this side. As I say, we're just waiting for one of these runners here to make the bed complete, but you can see how that operates with the support bars underneath to give strength to this extension piece here. Underneath here it is just storage, and there's a little cubby hole there. There's nothing in there, you can just lift that off. It gives you extra storage. Okay, underneath the other side of the bench seat, the charger unit is just here, and you can see we've got you need that switch switched on for the electric heater to work. The charger is controlled by that button there, and you can shut the 12-volt system down with that button there, but you shouldn't need to worry about that, to be honest. Underneath there's a bank of fuses, so each circuit will have an individual fuse. So you've got one for the heater, one for the lights, etc., and they're all labelled here. Next to that, you've got a main circuit breaker, so like a domestic circuit breaker that you'd expect to see at home. The way that that breaks is that these flip down, so you know that the circuit is broken or the fuse is gone, in theory, if that is flipped down. You can test that you've got mains coming into the motorhome by pressing that little test button there, and that will flip down. If it doesn't, it means that there's no mains supply into the motorhome. You would know that anyway because these lights wouldn't be illuminated, but that's a quick test to make sure that the supply into the motorhome is active. Sometimes on sites they've got a fuse which is on the site. At least with this you can eliminate whether it's the site fuse or the fuse in the motorhome. Next to that, there's 2 batteries been fitted to this motorhome to give extra leisure battery power. Those little bars that are for the bed, to make the bed up, are stored neatly in those little cutouts there. And there's just a little step and a base for the seat, base for the table. If you want the table to be outside, then there's just a tripod base for the table, which is just stored underneath there. There's a winder there for the awning. We do have a separate video on how to operate awnings. Again, we are just waiting for a small part to be delivered to get the awning operational. It's just for one of the legs. It's just a small metal piece which will allow the legs to draw down. By the time the customer collects, that'll be here, but that is the winder. So it's this here with the hook on the end for the awning. I will put a link in the description to show you how to operate the awning as a separate video. Just while we're here, the blinds on this motorhome, they just pull up like so. We've retensioned all these for the customer. They were not very, well, they weren't very tight, they weren't staying up. So you can see there now, all the blinds have been retensioned and they're staying in the halfway or fully closed position, and that's the fly screen. And those 2 things just clip together via this clip here, so you can have half and half or full blackout blinds. So all of those have been retensioned and are now operational, and exactly the same on the other side. So that's how the blinds work on there, and it's a very similar story up on the skylight, so you can have half and half or full blackout blinds. Just on the back door here, if you want to fully open the back doors, if you press that button there, instead of being at 90 degrees like this, it'll allow you to open the doors fully. And exactly the same on the other side. The reversing cameras are here, and also there's a carbon monoxide and smoke detector fitted in those areas just there. As we work on around the motorhome, that's just a light there for this external light. That lifts up to give you more worktop space. We've got a mains socket there. The table for the rear is just stored in there behind the driver's seat, and there's a leg which is in here, and that leg just fits into that little, you take that black cap out that I'm pointing to there, slot the leg in, and then the table sits on top of this leg here. And as I said, that tripod stand that was in the back, if you wanted to just take the table outside as an independent table, that's how you do so. Okay, we're on to the control panel. So that switches on and off the lights in the motorhome, that button there that I'm just pressing just here. That switches your water pump on. Obviously you need a pump to pump the water from the freshwater tank and eventually fill up the boiler, etc., and come out of the taps. When you first fill up with water, you will need to prime the system by switching the pump on. Come into your kitchen taps, switching those on hot first, wait until you get a pure flow of water coming out of your tap, and then you can switch the boiler on. There's no point switching the boiler on until you've primed the system like I've shown you, because otherwise you're just heating thin air in the boiler, which isn't good for the boiler. And then do exactly the same on the cold side. You'll get the tap spluttering away, and wait until you get a pure flow of water coming out of the tap, then you know the system's primed. That's your external light. This gives you levels. Okay, so you've got leisure battery there, it's showing that it's charging, and a light indication to show you as well. Got your vehicle battery condition. Just by pressing the button, it's scrolling through, so it's showing you your fresh and waste water levels. You can select, by pressing this button here, you can select your engine battery. I wouldn't do that. It's really only if you've discharged your leisure battery to a point where you can't get power and it's an emergency, then you can select your engine battery. as an emergency source of 12 volt power. You can adjust the time. That's just telling you what model of charger unit is fitted. Okay, and then we're back through to the beginning. Your heating controls are here. This dial here deals with the heating of the motorhome, and you adjust the temperature by pressing the button here. That is to heat the motorhome on gas. This one here is to heat it on electric. You can adjust the power output of the heating by selecting, so if you can see the lights there, they adjust. And it's explained on this sheet here, the kilowatt outputs that those individual lights mean. So by pressing that, you're adjusting the kilowatt output of the heating. Exactly the same on the other dial. The controls are exactly the same, and this is the heating of the water. So you can see there we're heating it on gas, and again you could adjust this to heat it on electric. You can heat it on both by the looks of things there, so that's a good function. That there is frost protection. The bottom one there, as you can see. On this one, it does have a night heater mode, so it'll just, I think what that does, it's not explained in the manual, but other heaters that have been from the same manufacturer that I've displayed and demonstrated, it's just a night heater that keeps the temperature from freezing in the motorhome, so quite a useful feature. If there is a problem with any of this and it doesn't ignite, for example, there's a little warning light, an exclamation mark that will be displayed here. Again, it's explained in the instructions here, but that's the basic overview of how to heat the motorhome and heat your water. Okay, the fridge, I'll just show you that while we're in this area here. So it's a three-way fridge, and to select the power source, so obviously electric, that is perfectly efficient and will run and get cold and operate perfectly well. And the next one along is 12 volt, so it's indicated by a battery. That will only work when the engine is running, and it's to keep the fridge cold for transit cooling. So really you need to get it cold first and then switch it over to that, and then it'll keep it cold as you're traveling. Next one down is gas. Again, it's perfectly efficient on gas. It'll get it cold and stay cold. To ignite this on gas, there's a thing here, so that now is not ignited. So I've got the dial switched onto gas, and I'm pressing this here. You will, I don't know whether it'll pick that up, but there's a click in to get the fridge to ignite on gas. You do actually need to press that in at the same time. Okay, so it's stopped clicking, and that red dial there is going over into the green area. I'm keeping both of these pressed in until that goes right into the green, and then I'm going to let those go slowly, and yeah, it stayed in the green, so that fridge is now operating on gas. So that's how you ignite it. You keep those two pressed in, wait for the dial to go into green, and then you know the fridge is ignited. This is your temperature control. The reason for that is if it's a really hot day, then obviously you want the fridge to work a bit harder. On a really cold day like today, if you put that on full, you'll ice up the fridge. So you need to select this at a temperature that suits the ambient temperature. So on a really cold day, maybe don't have it working as hard as on a really hot day, and yeah, the fridge will work harder and keep the contents cool. If you're going to lay this up and leave it for any length of time, there is a little catch here that you can adjust that will leave the fridge door slightly ajar, okay, and that stops any of the stagnation in the fridge, so it stops any stagnant air building up in the fridge and lets it breathe. Freezer section, you can actually take that out. The instructions for that are on the front. If you want it all to be fridge, you can get rid of the freezer section. One more noteworthy thing is under here, the boiler has its own little drain, and again there's an instruction manual here to show you that. But to drain the water out of the boiler, again, very important in winter. If you don't get all the water out of here, you're in danger of these pipes freezing up and the tank itself. So to do that, there's this yellow dial here. So that is in the open position and that is in the closed position. So that will retain the water, that's the operational position, and in the other position I showed you, that will drain all the water from the boiler. When you're draining this down, if you open up the taps in all areas, so your kitchen tap, your bathroom tap and your shower, it lets air in to the taps as the water's flowing out of the bottom to help frost protection. So in here we fitted a new shower head to this one. It wasn't the correct one. Your sink folds away like so. So that your sink folds down to give you drainage. So you use the sink, push that up, and then that drains the water out of the sink. The toilets, the flush for the toilet is just here. To use the toilet, this spins. So you would lift the lid. This opens and closes the valve inside, so you can probably just see there as I'm opening and closing this, it's opening and closing the valve. So open the valve up, use the toilet, and then use the flush, and then close it. And then make sure it's closed for transit. Obviously you don't want the liquid sloshing around in there.